The U.S. and Iran trading shots in the Gulf, threatening an already fragile.
Well, Iran is taking military action today after the U.S. launched what President Trump is calling his Project Freedom in the Strait of Hormuz.
If you attack American troops or innocent commercial shipping, you will face overwhelming and devastating American firepower.
0517 local time, Strait of Hormuz, T-minus 90 seconds until impact. 7 Iranian fast boats, more than 5,000 American sailors and aviators inside a narrowing corridor of water. Every second counts. This is the story of 42 minutes that could have set the Gulf on fire. Dawn over Hormuz can look deceptively ordinary. The sea is flat steel. Tankers crawl through the traffic separation lanes. The mountains of southern Iran sit dark on the horizon, and the Omani coastline to the south is just beginning to glow. Then you see her, a Nimitz-class, U.S. aircraft carrier pushing through one of the most strategically sensitive waterways on Earth, escorted by 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser, and a fast-attack submarine somewhere unseen below. Every day, roughly a fifth of the world's seaborne oil passes through this bottleneck. At its narrowest practical transit corridor, you're talking about a maritime artery barely wide enough for global economics and military brinkmanship to share the same breath. Imagine you're standing on the carrier's island catwalk. You smell jet fuel, hot metal, salt spray. Below you, flight deck crews in color-coded jerseys move with practiced calm. In the Combat Information Center, operators watch screens glowing green and amber. In the ready rooms, pilots are strapped into a morning that was supposed to be routine. Ahead, the strait bends. Off the port side, commercial shipping. Off the starboard side, Iran's coast, layered with radars, missile sites, patrol craft, and decades of confrontation packed into a few dozen miles of water. This isn't just a ship, it's a floating airbase, a sovereign piece of American power. Around 3,200 sailors aboard the carrier. Roughly 2,000 more across the air wing and escorts. Super Hornets on deck. EA-18G Growlers ready for electronic warfare. E-2D Hawkeye overhead. MH-60R Seahawks on standby. Aegis radars sweeping constantly. Close-in weapon systems already awake, even when the crew wishes the region would just stay quiet for one clean sunrise. But 14 miles away, inside the clutter of civilian traffic and coastal haze, the calm is already dead. In this fictional scenario, the plan begins in an Iranian Revolutionary Guard Navy operations cell near Bandar Abbas. The concept is brutally simple. 7 fast attack craft surge toward the carrier formation from multiple bearings at more than 40 knots. Some carry heavy machine guns and rockets. At least 2 are rigged for suicide impact. Their job is not to sink a carrier by themselves. Their job is to force the Americans to compress their attention, to trigger weapons releases, to create the moment of confusion. While every eye tracks the boats, coastal batteries on Qeshm Island and near Abu Musa launch anti-ship cruise missiles. Shahed drones rise behind them as decoys and saturation tools. A layered ambush in one of the world's most crowded waterways. From Tehran's hardline perspective, the calculation is seductive. Strike hard, strike fast, create global shock, and claim the U.S. Navy is vulnerable even inside its own protective bubble. Maybe you don't destroy the carrier. Maybe you only damage an escort, kill a few dozen sailors, shut the strait for 72 hours, spike oil prices, and show the region that America can be bloodied. In their minds, that is enough. Enough for headlines, enough for leverage, enough for a calculated demonstration. And there's the problem with their plan. They think the 7 boats are the attack. They think the Americans will react to the visible threat and miss the invisible one. They think coastal terrain, commercial radar clutter, and seconds of compression will level the fight. What they didn't account for is information dominance. Hours earlier, a P-8A Poseidon orbiting outside the strait had already flagged unusual small craft fueling patterns near Iranian facilities, AUS. Surveillance satellite had noted transporter activity near known anti-ship missile revetments. Electronic support operators aboard the cruiser picked up short, disciplined bursts of communications on frequencies associated with IRGC maritime coordination. Nothing definitive alone. Together, a pattern. Not proof of attack, but enough to quietly shift the strike group from transit posture to predatory vigilance. The carrier group does not broadcast panic. It adjusts. Airborne radar coverage tightens. Helicopters are armed earlier. Escort spacing changes by just enough to matter. Rules of engagement are reviewed one more time. The enemy thinks he's about to spring a trap. The trap has already been mapped. Could you feel that if you were down there on the deck? Could you tell the difference between routine tension and the edge of war? At 0518, the first confirmation lands. An MH-60R crew reports multiple fast movers departing the Iranian side at high speed. No fishing gear, no commercial transponders, erratic converging tracks. Seconds later, the E-2D Hawkeye refines it. 7 contacts, split into 3 elements, closing fast. Simultaneously, the cruiser's SPY-1 radar and the lead destroyer's combat system begin correlating low-altitude tracks inland that shouldn't be there at all. Heat blooms, movement, launch signatures building. Then the order cracks through the formation. General quarters, general quarters. All hands man your battle stations. Now you're there. You're in Combat Information Center. Headset tight, heartbeat climbing. The ship's lighting shifts. Watertight doors slam shut. Sailors move with that terrifying kind of discipline that only comes from repetition and the knowledge that practice is over. Pilots sprint. Missile crews confirm arm status. Bridge watchstanders call ranges in clipped, almost emotionless bursts. That's how professionalism sounds when death is on a stopwatch. The first layer of the fight is the boats. At 8,000 yards, bridge-to-bridge warnings go out in English and Farsi. Alter course immediately. You are approaching a coalition warship. At 6,000 yards, the warnings intensify. LRAD acoustic devices scream. Signal flares punch into the dawn. 2 boats hesitate, jittering in their wake. 5 keep coming. 1 accelerates. That's when the commander stops thinking about signaling and starts thinking about geometry. An aircraft carrier cannot dodge a swarm inside Hormuz the way a speedboat dodges debris. It has mass, inertia, a flight deck full of fuel, ordnance, and personnel. So the escorts step in. The nearest Arleigh Burke turns aggressively, placing itself between the carrier and the approaching boats. Its Mark 38 25mm gun opens up, sharp, controlled, ripping the sea surface into white geysers around the lead craft. An MH-60R rolls in from starboard and fires AGM-114 Hellfires. 1 boat disappears in a flat orange burst. Another cartwheels, hull split open. The third keeps charging, engine screaming, until 5-0. Caliber fire from the destroyer walks through the cockpit and the craft slams sideways into the water. 4 seconds. That's all it takes to go from warning to wreckage. But while American eyes track burning fiberglass and black smoke, the real strike begins. Multiple missile launches, bearing north-northeast. 14 anti-ship cruise missiles leave concealed positions along the Iranian coast and nearby islands, skimming low over the water. Behind them come 18 one-way attack drones, slower but useful as clutter, forcing the defense to sort targets under pressure. Not a duel, not a test, a saturation attempt. Here's what the attackers believed: that a narrow strait compresses reaction time, that a low-flying cruise missile weaving through ground clutter is a predator, that enough inbound objects can turn even an American formation into a statistics problem. What they forgot is that U.S. naval defense is not one weapon, it's a kill web. The E-2D Hawkeye sees the raid first and longest, pushing track quality to every ship in the group. The cruiser assigns engagement zones. 1 destroyer takes the northern axis. The other builds a southern basket. Electronic warfare systems aboard the escorts and the carrier begin feeding false cues into missile seekers. Growlers spool up for jamming support. Super Hornets already airborne swing outward, not toward the boats, but toward the sky lanes where the slower drones are trying to blend into the battle. The first interceptors launch at 0521. Standard missile. 2S leap from vertical launch cells in white pillars of flame, climbing hard before knifing down toward the incoming raid. Seconds later, evolved Sea Sparrow missiles follow, shorter range, faster reacting, designed for exactly this kind of terminal defense. The sky over Hormuz stops looking like dawn and starts looking like circuitry made visible streaks of fire, turning points. Bloom after bloom of proximity fuses detonating at impossible closing speeds. 1 cruise missile disappears at 18 nautical miles, then another at 16. A third breaks apart. Seeker blinded and frame tumbling into the water after electronic attack corrupts its guidance. The running count starts building. 14 launched, 3 gone, 5, 8. You're in that cockpit now, looking down from a Super Hornet at contrails crossing beneath you and sunlight catching the tops of missile plumes. Could you keep your hands steady? Could you distinguish a drone from debris with half a second to decide? The drones arrive as the second wave of pressure. Smaller radar returns, lower cost, perfect for forcing bad spending decisions. But the Americans don't fight the wrong battle. Super Hornets use AIM, 9X missiles where needed, then cannons where angles allow, and MH-60R crew vectors onto a Shahed that slips south and shreds it over open water. One destroyer refuses to waste long-range interceptors on low-priority targets and lets its ESSM battery handle the mid-range while soft-kill systems and close-in guns prepare for leakers. That decision matters. At 0523, 2 cruise missiles survive long enough to force the innermost layer. One comes in sea-skimming from the northeast, less than 15 feet above the water, hidden in spray. The cruiser catches it late, but not too late. A Sea-Ram launcher snaps, fires, and the missile vanishes in a violent mid-air rupture 1.8 miles from the screen. Fragments rain into the Gulf. The second is worse. It skirts a tanker's radar shadow, pops clear, and suddenly it's there fast, low, inside the kind of envelope that kills people because humans are too slow and machines have to finish the sentence. Phalanx CIWS erupts. 6,000 rounds per minute. A circular saw made of tungsten and radar logic. The sound is not thunder, it's a metallic scream. A line of tracers reaches out, finds the missile, and tears it apart so close that sailors on the outer decks feel the concussion in their ribs. Heart pounding. This is real. Meanwhile, the final 2 fast boats try one last gamble, using the smoke of the first kills as concealment. Bad choice. The second destroyer's 5-inch gun fires proximity-fused rounds over their path, showering them with shrapnel. One stops dead, the other veers away, only to meet rockets from the circling Seahawk. The sea around the strike group is now littered with flaming wreckage, drifting fragments, and the hard proof that cheap aggression still bleeds when it meets disciplined fire control. Minute 6. All 7 boats neutralized. Minute 8. 11 of 14 cruise missiles destroyed. Minute 10. All 18 drones either shot down, jammed off course, or splashed harmlessly. 1 missile fragment scars the outer hull of an escort. 3 American sailors suffer minor injuries from debris and shock during high-speed maneuvering. The carrier itself takes no hit. No fires on deck. No aircraft lost. No breach in the screen. And that is the moment everything changes. Because self-defense at sea happens in seconds, but the decision to end the enemy's ability to do it again happens just after. Inside the chain of command, there is no confusion now. This was not harassment, not a near miss, not another dangerous interaction for diplomats to argue about later. This was a coordinated armed attack using fast boats, cruise missiles, and drones against U.S. naval forces in international transit. The legal threshold is crossed. The operational threshold is crossed. The emotional threshold? That vanished with the first incoming track. At Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the Combined Air Operations Center begins stitching the wider response. In Bahrain, 5th Fleet pushes maritime deconfliction warnings to keep civilian shipping clear of the kill zones. In the carrier's flag spaces, the strike package expands from defense to punishment, not revenge, not theater, a systematic erasure of immediate threat capacity. The first retaliatory weapons are already on the way, before the public would even know a battle has begun. 2 destroyers and the submarine loose 32 Tomahawk land attack missiles against coastal radar sites, command posts, boat pens, and identified anti-ship missile batteries near Bandar Abbas, Keshem Island, and Abu Musa. Their routes are programmed to arrive nearly simultaneously, overwhelming point defenses and compressing enemy decision time, just like the Iranians tried to do, only better, faster, cleaner. Then the carrier air wing launches its answer. 24F, A-18E, F Super Hornets, 4EA, 18G Growlers, E-2D overhead, tanking support, pushing the package deeper. Some jets carry AGM, 88 EAA RGMs for radar suppression. Others carry JDAMs, laser-guided bombs, and AGM, 154 JSOWs for launchers, revetments, and maritime staging areas. From Al Dhafra in the UAE, additional U.S. fighters surge to reinforce the outer picture and make absolutely certain no secondary raid gets airborne. Now shift perspective. From the Iranian side, what looked like an ambush has become a hunt, and they are the prey. The first Tomahawks arrive low and fast, clipping over terrain before slamming into coastal surveillance radars that had fed the missile attack. Antenna arrays fold, power stations flash out. A command bunker near Bandar Abbas loses communications in a single pulse of fire and concrete dust. On Keshem, 2 mobile anti-ship missile launchers try to relocate. They don't make it. A Super Hornet pair drops GPS-guided bombs that hit the road cut and the vehicles together, turning both into a cratered knot of burning metal. Growlers blanket surviving emitters with electronic attack. Every time a radar lights up, AARGMs begin moving toward it like sharks scenting blood. An IRGC fastboat facility on the coast fuel bladders, rocket stocks, pier-side shelters takes successive strikes until secondary explosions walk the shoreline. 1, then 5, then 10. The entire waterfront becomes a chain of detonations. Could you make that call if you were the regional commander? Stop after the boats? Stop after the missiles? Or do you destroy the launchers, the radars, the command nodes, and the fuel that made the attack possible? In modern war, restraint is not passivity. Sometimes restraint is making the next attack physically impossible. By minute 27, the response is no longer about survival. It is about future capability denial. By minute 34, Iranian coastal command and control in the immediate sector is fractured. Launch authority is confused. Surviving crews are hiding, moving, or dead. Drones that might have been readied for a second wave sit blind in damaged shelters. Boats that might have rushed the strait are burning at their moorings, the U.S. Formation, once the target, is now the center of a coordinated multi-domain counterblow, stretching from the sea surface to inland command networks. By minute 42, the first phase is over. Final tally in this fictional scenario: 7 fast boats committed, 7 destroyed, 14 anti-ship cruise missiles launched, 14 neutralized before impact, 18 drones used in the saturation package, all defeated, 32 Tomahawks fired in response, 28 American carrier aircraft generated for follow-on operations, 6 coastal missile sites destroyed or rendered inoperable, 3 radar nodes knocked out, 2 command centers heavily damaged, 1 fast boat base effectively erased as a fighting asset. And the comparison that matters most? Iran spent weeks building a layered strike meant to humiliate a superpower in minutes. The U.S. Navy and Joint Force broke it apart in less time than your morning commute, then spent the next half hour dismantling the infrastructure that made it possible. The casualties tell their own story. On the American side, minor injuries, shaken nerves, a few decks scarred by fragments, but combat power intact. On the Iranian side, heavy losses in boats, missile crews, coastal support personnel, and command assets that cannot be replaced overnight. More important than the numbers is the message. Mass alone is not enough. Speed alone is not enough. Cheap systems alone are not enough. Not when they run into integrated sensors, disciplined crews, layered defenses, and commanders who understand how to compress decisions without losing control. That's the real lesson here. Future naval conflict in choke points like Hormuz will not be decided by who fires first. It will be decided by who sees first, who classifies first, who shares the picture fastest, and who can turn information into violence with the least delay. The 7 boats were dramatic. The cruise missiles were dangerous. But the decisive weapon was the network linking satellite queuing, airborne radar, Aegis fire control, electronic warfare, helicopters, fighters, and human judgment under pressure. While the attackers believed they were launching a precision humiliation, the defenders were already building a response tree. While Iran tried to force a chaotic brawl in narrow water, the United States turned it into a controlled execution of doctrine. That's what modern maritime deterrence really looks like. Not invincibility, not magic, preparation, layering, speed, and crews who can perform with steel in the air and seconds on the clock. So how does this change your view of future conflicts in the Strait of Hormuz? Let's discuss. Subscribe for more strategic analysis.